Hey everybody, welcome to Unscripted, where we are all about inspiring better conversations and helping people think more deeply and critically about faith, life, and leadership. My name is Sam, and I'm here hanging out with my good friend, Mike, my pastor, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm good, Sam, but can I just steal the questioning thing? Well, it's not actually a question. I just want to talk about whatever I want to talk about for a bit.
Sure, that's fine.
People keep asking me all the time. We're getting so much good feedback about Unscripted, and the number one question is always, how much time do you guys spend preparing?
Yeah.
Like what's written down? Do you have notes somewhere? And I'm like, no, the whole name is Unscripted. Yeah. It's totally unscripted. So once again today, like every other day, I have no clue what you're going to ask me. Yeah. Well, so they need to know that. Like they think there's this plan. And so, be a little grace giving. Like maybe the answers aren't the best because it's spur of the moment answers.
This is very, very true.
So I wanted to just say that because I keep hearing that, like I'm out in the community and someone's like, oh, Unscripted is really cool. Like, how do you guys put that together? I'm like, I don't know. You just show up and answer questions.
Well, that's what you think about it, right? Like you show up and answer questions.
You think of questions, I know.
I spend like a lot of time really making sure that we get ready for a good interview.
My side is no clue. But hold on. So there's that. And then the other thing is, I had a bunch of teenagers ask me that this week because everyone doesn't know we actually did this on stage last Wednesday night.
Yeah, we
moved the table and everything to the church stage. And youth group was there. There's like 50 kids and Pastor Danny and all the volunteers. And we did it live on stage.
So great.
But totally unscripted.
Totally unscripted.
And that was super fun.
It was a lot more pressure, wasn't it? Did you feel more pressure?
Yeah, but also good because like there was feedback. Like sometimes the kids would laugh or whatever, make a face, so I kind of like the feedback because you knew that someone was actually listening. Yeah. Like right now, who knows? Like no one could even tune in.
It's interesting from an interviewing standpoint because I had to react to you, and normally I just have to react to you.
Right.
But then I also have to think. What
I know
are they thinking?
It took me a while to figure that out too.
Totally.
But you all should watch for it because I think we should do that as a regular sermon sometime.
I think it'd be a great
Sunday
time.
morning at a table just like this, and just see what happens.
Okay, so I was thinking about that. I was agreeing with you. We should do that. Yeah. But here's the thing I was thinking about. If we do it the first time, it's going to be so hard to do it the second service. And like, so I thought,
it'll be a completely different service.
It will. And so I thought if I'm doing it, I'm going to have like 3 different questions.
Okay.
So
just don't
I've
tell
already
me before.
Planned it. So I'm going to say like, here's the questions for the first service. And then you're going to think you got it nailed. And I'm going to just totally surprise you.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Okay. That would be fun. So anyways, I was so impressed at youth group. We have the best teens here. Like they were so awesome. So that was super fun for me. If you're an adult and you're listening, you need to know that we have an amazing youth group here. Pastor Danny's doing an incredible job. It was so good. So it was for me. It was just fun to be there. Yeah. And see, like the kids' worship was awesome. Like the whole night was really, really fun. So that was cool. And then I'm just jacked today. I just came out, just finished with 2 meetings. The first was with one of our worship team members, one of the volunteers that plays an instrument on the teams, and I just had the best time with him. Like just getting to know him better and just hearing like how much he cares about the music and how much he cares about leading worship and how impactful it is for him on stage. Yeah. Which is super exciting. It's just so really, really cool to spend time with him. And then after that, I met with Kirk and Emsey. And if you don't know, Kirk and Emsey lead one of our ministries here at church. They lead missions trips to Honduras with Mission Lazarus. And I got their update and their plans for this summer. And they're just the best people. And it's such an awesome organization. So I was just so impressed. I hugged them. I'd like to hug them some more right now. It was just awesome. So if you're ever interested in doing some sort of mission trip, especially to South America, you email Sam. Sam will hook you up to connect with Kirk and Emsey because what they do is amazing. So
it's
I don't
incredible.
know. I'm just super happy about them right now.
I love them. I love that mission. I mean, there was like 8 years ago or something like that. 5-6 years ago. I can't remember how long ago, but I actually led the first trip.
You led the first one. I know.
And it's an incredible organization and incredible. The people, I still know them and feel connected to them and feel connected to Emsey and Kirk. They're just fantastic leaders.
Yeah. I think they have about 12 people from RCC already signed up to go this summer.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
So that's cool.
So I want to go back for a second. We spent a night last week hanging out with some students, and the dream was we'd record it and we'd put it out there for people. But there's
I was told
there was a little technical glitch that happened, which happens. Like this is a thing, right? Yep. So there was music that was playing that wasn't in the room but was on the cameras, so you couldn't hear anything we were saying. But I will show you some clips. We'll put those in the background of this, or maybe you've already seen them at this point. But we'll show you a little bit of that. And the reason we're not doing that is because you can't hear anything we say, and we talk about that. But
and it was really good too.
I know, the best one we've ever done.
Right? That's what I always say when people miss church. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry I wasn't at church." And I'm like, "Oh, it's too bad. It was the best one we ever had."
Yeah, totally. So as I was thinking about that, the one thing that I do want to get to is sometimes things don't work. Sometimes things don't go as planned. And we've had kind of some different sayings about that, some different talks about that. I'm curious what you think about how you adjust to things when they don't go as planned.
Oh man, flexibility is everything. Like before I was a pastor and I was a teacher and we did some interviewing for new teachers, them knowing that they need to be flexible was so important, because so often in school, things just don't go as planned.
Yeah.
Right. So to be a really good teacher, you've got to be flexible. And it's really the same in church. Like there's lots and lots of people involved. There's lots of stuff going on. A lot of junk's plugged in. Stuff doesn't go as planned all the time.
All the time.
And often you can't even tell, because we just adjust as we go and no one would even know that it didn't go as planned. But you can't be so psycho about the plan that unless it goes your way, you're crabby about it.
Yeah.
And you could just say that for life. Like life doesn't go as planned either. Neither is parenting, neither do relationships. Nothing goes as you think it's going to go.
Yeah.
So the whole deal, really all of life, is one adjustment after another.
And there's a saying that you say off of that sometimes that I really love. It's find the win. Like there's always a win, even in a situation like that. And so I've been thinking about that from our time at a youth group with the students. And even though we don't get to use it, I actually figured out a different feature to the camera system that we used that will allow us to make sure that the sound is really good in a better way. So that's a cool win. I found that out. And then second, it was so cool to set it up like that. I think there's some possibilities that we might use in the future. So there's wins. And if you don't win, I could have been super down about it, super frustrated. And I was a little frustrated, honestly. I wanted that because it was so good. It was the best one we've ever done.
Yeah.
And you'll never know, never to be the wiser. But because of that, I think you always have to find the win. And that's something you've really ingrained in the culture here at RCC.
Winners win.
Yeah, totally.
Winners win. People have a habit of winning, or people have a habit of losing. And if you feel like you're losing a lot, you just got to break the habit. So winners win. There's always a win. For example, I have a friend who planted a church years ago, and no one showed up the first week.
Really? No one?
Zero people came.
That's insane.
And he learned from it, and that was fine. And eventually that church took off and became a very healthy church and all that. But the win is, for 20 years, 30 years, he's taught church planters how to recover from things that don't go well.
Oh, wow.
So there's the win.
Yeah, it's a huge
win. All
win.
these other churches over all these years have benefited from his story and how he dealt with a major, what looked like failure, right? Like no one came to your first service. You're standing at the door hoping someone shows up, and then no one shows. He had to have been crushed that day. But it turned out to be a win for so many others. He just had to think about it the right way. Yeah. And in the end, it became his own win as well. But everything is like that. If 3 people show up for church on Sunday, we've never had less than a couple hundred people here ever. If 3 people showed up, I'd still expect it to be a win. I would forget the sermon. I'd turn off everything, go downstairs, have a coffee with them, and pull out a Bible and start talking about verses together. And I bet I would learn something. I bet they'd learn something. And I think for the 4 of us, it would be an amazing day. That's my perception of what Sunday could be if 3 people showed up. So I always think there's a win. You just got to find the win.
Yeah.
And it might not be the win you thought you were going to have. That's where the flexible part comes in. What you thought wasn't going to happen, what you thought would happen doesn't happen, but there's something good happening somewhere. You just got to open up to it.
Yeah, most definitely. You're absolutely right. So from last week, there were so many things that came out of that I'm super grateful that we did the thing for, and that becomes a win. Yeah. And so one of the things I also want to talk about with that, if you're cool with it, which you don't have any choice, I get to ask the question.
Great.
This is what's so great about this.
I've never passed. Is there a pass?
No.
There should be a button. like I should have this button, and 3 times a year I can hit the pass button.
You can totally hit the pass button, but I'll probably just ask the question in a roundabout way.
All right.
It's one of my favorite things to do. Anyways. So I loved the conversation we had so much. I wanted to talk about it, but what I love about it also is it's given me time. Normally you give a sermon, and I don't know if you've had this experience, the next 3 days you think of all the things you could have said to add to it.
Yeah.
It always happens.
Yeah.
This is that opportunity. We've had a week to let it marinate and have those feelings and thoughts and different pieces come out. And I just want to maybe talk about a few of the things we talked about last Wednesday night, and just talk about the experience of talking about it, how it hit the students, which is really interesting, and then the things maybe we wish we would have said, or any of that kind of stuff.
All right.
So there's a few topics we covered.
Okay.
One of the first things we talked about, which I thought was fun, it was Danny's question. This is his prompt that he wanted us to start with, was the question of, what does it actually mean to believe? Because there's believing in God, and then there's believing in such a way where you actually are following God and Jesus. And why does it matter to have a difference? We kind of started out talking about this. Do you remember what we said at all?
Not really.
Totally.
But I'm way older than you, so I probably forgot by 10 minutes afterwards last Wednesday night. But for me, what it truly means to believe in something should show in your actions.
Yeah.
You can have a mental assent to something to think, oh, that's good. That's good. I appreciate it, or I respect it, or whatever, or it's smart. I can have a mental assent, but that's not really belief. Belief shows in actions. For example, if I get a headache today, I'm going to take Advil. Why? I believe Advil will make my headache go away.
Yeah.
And that's the proof of it, right?
Yeah.
I believe it. It's done it many, many times for me. I'll take some Advil and my headache will go away. But that's because I believe that Advil works for me, right? So it shows up in my action.
Yeah.
So, and that's totally non-faith, right? That's just headaches and Advil.
Yeah.
But there's a belief that Advil is going to work.
Yeah, there is.
And so life is that way too. If you actually believe something, it's got to show in your actions.
Most definitely. And I think that was the cool part, because I've heard from Danny just talking about what the discussions have come out of youth group have been. And they're these really normal, like very serious questions of, okay, how do I know if I'm going to go to heaven? Essentially, is where the question hits the rubber meets the road. And is that all that matters? Like, is it just about going to heaven and like saying the right prayer, saying the right words, or is it more than that? Is it an actual life? And I think that we got into that in a couple ways, but you have thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, a lot of times people think Christianity is all about going to heaven. Like you say a special prayer and whatever, and then someday, many years from now, you get to spend eternity in heaven. And it's kind of like a switch that you flip and then, cash in on, years later. If you actually believe, it starts to change your life now.
Yeah.
And in a sense, you bring God's kingdom to earth. I mean, that's the Lord's Prayer, right? Like your kingdom come, all that stuff. You want God's kingdom here, and God's kingdom can be here with you now. Life can be different now as a person of belief. You don't have to wait till you die. And that's, I think, often what people miss, or maybe we don't teach about enough on Sundays. I don't know. But so many people miss that completely. And that living for God now as a faithful person, the best you can, makes life so much different now.
Yes.
The junk you got to worry about, all that stuff is different now because of your living with faith versus waiting to benefit from it someday, like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, it's almost like you maybe have this ticket to spend eternity with God in heaven, great, but you're missing out on so much of what's available right now, which...
Why wait to experience it?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to wait like 40 years before you experience the goodness?
Definitely.
Why not start to experience it now?
Which is great because...
excuse me, I'm sorry. That's where the faith part comes in. I believe that by following Jesus, my life will be better. I believe that by trusting God and trying to obey God, my life will be better. I believe that. So it shows in my actions. I could just say it and not do diddly about it, and it wouldn't show. And then you'd know, like, maybe he doesn't actually believe. In the Bible, Jesus says, you know a tree by its fruit. So the fruit of my life, the actions of my life, reveal what type of tree I am. I happen to be a person of faith. I believe in God, it shows in my actions. I believe in Jesus, it shows in my actions. And that makes my life better right now. I don't think it impresses God or something like God's out there cheering like, wow, what a great day Mike's having today. But I can cheer. I can enjoy my day today as a person of faith. My life can be better. I can have more joy, less stress. I can have a better life because of my faith today. That's what I want for people.
Yeah, do these things, and that's the path to blessing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Do you either believe that or you don't?
Yeah, exactly.
Follow Jesus and life is better or not. But it's you get to choose. God doesn't make you do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't make you believe. He doesn't make you follow. That you get to choose. But if you really choose, then it shows.
Yeah. So this is great because it actually leads right into the other question that I asked that night. And the question, I guess I was trying to put myself in their shoes, which is longer than I like to admit ago. It's starting to feel longer and longer each time. But as I was sitting there thinking about...
It won't be long before you have a teenager. So
And we're real close.
Yeah,
I mean, like 4 years away, and he's a teenager. That's
Yeah.
real scary. Yeah. I'd even say that. I joked with Meg the other day.
Your kids are closer to being in youth group than you are.
Totally,
That's
by
awesome.
a long shot.
That's awesome.
I joked with Meg the other day.
Your kids are almost closer to being in youth group than you are. Well, hopefully
I
not.
gotta think about that for a little while.
Hopefully it's a while. But hold on. It wouldn't be that crazy to say that you had grandchildren 20 years from now.
Oh gosh, 20
right?
years from now is fine. Yeah.
Okay, so even less, right?
Well, that'd be 30, 35.
Yeah, but you're already like 20 years out of youth group yourself.
This is true.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it's close.
It's getting closer.
How old is
He's 9 years old.
Okay, so if he had a kid at 20, that's 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Right?
And that'd be really early.
But it's early.
Yeah.
But that child could be in youth group 12 years later.
This is true.
So that's 22 years from now.
Yep.
You could have a grandchild in youth group about 20 years from now. It's been 15 since you've been there.
We're close.
So yeah.
The flip is almost happening.
Sorry. I hope Meg's not listening.
Well, I was going to say, I told her the other day that when
Meg,
he turned 9,
I'm sorry. Sam's old.
When he turned 9, I realized he's halfway to 18. And that was like a mind-blowing moment. And like 4 years till teenager, that's really scary.
Well, 4 years from now, we'll be talking and you'll be saying, I feel like we just talked about this yesterday.
It'll feel like that for sure.
Okay.
Well, anyways, the question I asked you was, because this is...
Was there a question?
There was a question.
Okay,
There's going to be a question. Right. I haven't gotten to it yet. Okay. I just keep getting interrupted. I don't know.
I'm in such a good mood for these nice meetings I had today. Like,
this is great. But the question I have is this, that I had for them, because this is what I felt like when I was a teenager, I think. How can you be a Christian and not be lame? And that was the question. I know it sounds silly and kind of like just putting it out there, but I asked that because that's the feeling I had when I was in high school or whatever. Like I was living the lame life because I was a Christian. But as I've gotten older, the answer that you just talked about is really powerful because I think that's true.
Yeah, people think that, right? Like, oh, a person of faith is lame because they won't do this or they won't do that or whatever. They're not part of the in crowd, whatever it is. Being a Christian isn't about what you don't do anymore. It's what you begin to do more of.
Yeah.
So is it lame to be kind to people? Is it lame to forgive others? Is it lame to give grace? Is it lame to be non-judgmental? Is it lame to forgive others? Like what? Is it lame to be generous? Like all these things Jesus teaches us, right? Kindness and goodness. Are those things lame? They're not lame. Those are really good things. And when you have those things, people don't see you as lame.
Yeah.
People respect you.
Let's just take generosity for a second. Like if you follow generosity, like God would tell you to live generously, your life could get turned in the most incredible, crazy ways simply by being generous.
Exactly. You could buy some more junk that later you will think is junk.
Yep.
Or you could be generous with people and see their lives change.
Yeah.
Which one is lame?
Yeah. And then by being generous, there's this thing that naturally happens where you have relationships with people that you're generous with. It's not like you're getting payment for it, but you're a generous person. I want to spend time with you. And suddenly you have adventures and different pieces that you get to do, different things that just happen naturally because when you live how God wants you to live, you bless others and then blessings come back to you. And yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
It's not lame to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
You have a meaningful life. How is that ever lame?
Well, this is
and
interesting.
The things
though.
that God warns you against are for your own good.
Mm-hmm.
He says that don't be a gossip. What is that, to punish you? No, it's to keep you out of lousy friendships that are all about hurting other people.
Yeah.
So that's a protection. He says don't get drunk. Well, why? Because bad things happen to you when you're drunk. It's not a punishment, right? Don't lie. Why? Because lies ruin friendships and relationships. You're not trustworthy anymore. So the things that God warns us about that we call sins are actually for our own benefit.
Yeah.
He's a loving father. He's trying to keep you from making dumb mistakes that end up hurting you. That's not lame.
Yeah. My favorite thing from last week was when you're like, that's just not a smart thing. And you're just like, that's just dumb. And the people are like, oh, he said dumb. Like, that's enough. But it's so true, right?
Some stuff is just dumm. Everyone knows it's dumb.
I know,
it's okay to call it dumb.
It's called what it is.
That's my opinion. Some things are dumb. Yes.
Oh, man, that was so great. So a couple of things off of that as well. I mean, we talked about gossip for a second, and that was a part of the conversation that we kind of really got into, and you could feel it in the room. Yeah. Like, this is something that people struggle with.
That was actually the hardest part of the night for me.
Tell me why.
I loved talking about the topic of gossip, and I know how it affects kids' lives, right? And the basis of all gossip is this. And I've learned this over the years, even before when I was a basketball coach and a teacher before this. The basis of gossip is this. The person doing the gossiping is miserable.
Yeah.
They're miserable inside. So if you're a student, it's another kid, and they're saying bad things about you, it's because they're miserable inside. They're hurting so bad. They feel everyone's looking at them so much. They have to make a joke about your clothes because it takes the attention off of them and their fear that their clothes don't look good and puts it on you. And now they're okay. If they say, for instance, you're stupid, what they're really trying to tell everyone else is, I'm smart. I'm so insecure, though, I don't know if anyone thinks I'm smart. If I'm insulting someone else, that means I'm not it.
Yeah.
Right? So all that gossip stuff comes totally out of insecurity. So when you understand that, you can look at the person doing it and just feel sorry for them. They're hurting so bad inside, their only way to deal with it is to try to hurt someone else. That's just sad. It's sad that they're living that life and they're stuck in that trap. So that's really what gossip is about. The hard part, though, wasn't explaining that. I'd love to even talk about that more with teens and adults. The hard part, talking to the teens about it, was, sadly, there's a lot of, it doesn't go away. There's a lot of adults that still do it. I think in a teen's world, you think there's some of this junk I'm having to deal with as a teenager that someday I won't have to deal with anymore because people grow up. Not everyone grows up. There are adults that do the same crummy thing that young people do. They don't grow up. So you're still going to deal with it when you're 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever. That's a fact.
That's the thing I kept on wanting to say out loud, and I said it at least once last week, was that it doesn't change. Like, you want it to change, but this stuff is going to be with you always. And there's going to be these tests of relationships that you're going to realize that person I thought was a friend, but I'm finding out isn't so much of a friend. And we got to this thing that I thought was really, really powerful for me, even like as I was sitting and listening and thinking about it. And we got to this thing where it's not about impressing everybody. You don't need to be everybody's friend. You need to just have those few good friends that matter. And then in addition to that, you just have to be kind to everybody. You don't have to be everybody's friend or impress people. Jesus says be kind and love others. He doesn't say be everybody's friend.
Correct. And if you're a high character, high integrity person, you will attract other high character, high integrity people.
Absolutely.
You might only have a few friends, but they'll be the friends you want.
Yeah.
Those are the people you can trust that have your back. That's who you want. You don't need to be everyone's friend. You can't be everyone's friend.
No, you can't. But what I love about it is we were spending that time talking to 13, 15, 18-year-olds, and this is exactly still the stuff that we have to continue to grow in. And what I think is crazy is these students are thinking about those things and thinking about them in a healthy way now. And not waiting until, oh man, I'm turning 35, 40 years old and I'm still struggling with these things, or however many years old, and I need to finally figure this out for myself. These are the kids, and that's what I love about the student life here, is they're wrestling with these things that if they get it now, will set them on a track for life that is so much different.
Yeah.
I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I told the kids the other night that, like, I'm gossiped about now more than when I was a teenager. And I think I had the average amount of gossip as a teenager, right? Like, I think I basically experienced your normal teenage life. And I dealt with it. I understood it. And I feel like I do now with the kids as well. However, social media has made it, I think, so much worse for our kids
so much
these
worse
days. Because instead of someone gossiping to 5 people, they can gossip to 500 like instantly. So it's harder now, but it's the same basic thing. However, I deal with it probably more now than ever because people love to see people that are known fail. They love to say, like, people love to gossip about celebrities, for instance, right? Like TV stars and all that junk. You just look at the internet, there's tons of gossip. Our sports
a moneymaker, even.
It's just you love to see someone at the top fall. And there's so much gossip out there all the time. It's so totally false. When I was a teenager, I would have thought it wouldn't be like this.
Yeah.
But now that I'm here, and especially in somewhat of a known position as a pastor of a big church, there's so much of it. And it's just so sad. I hurt for those people. They must be miserable. And I don't like it for myself. I mean, it can hurt or make me angry or whatever. But in the end, it's just sick that they're living like that.
Yeah.
It's somehow, it makes them feel better to spread negativity or lies about someone else. It's just sad. And I just wish for them they wouldn't have to live that way. Because they're having a miserable life, whether they're a teenager or an adult. And God didn't create anyone to live that miserable life. That's not what he wants. So even if you're screwing up that way right now, cut it out. Because that's not what God wants for you. You're unhappy. You know you're unhappy. You look in the mirror, you're unhappy. Don't try to make everyone else unhappy around you. Just change your ways. Find a better life.
Well, that's what I was just going to speak to for a second, is if you're listening, you're like, oh man, that's something I really struggle with. I just tend to gossip. I can't help myself. This is hard.
Oh, you can help yourself. Just cut it out.
But here's the thing. Like, I agree with you, except I know that it's an easy way. If you do it normally, it's something that you have to actually consciously think about to do. So do it.
You got to make a choice.
Consciously think about it because it matters, because there are so many layers of benefit, not only to the people that you're gossiping about, their lives will be better, your life will actually be better.
Well, first of all, don't forget as you're doing it, God is there hearing it.
Yes.
So he knows exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible for you. If that's what you're doing and you think you're doing it in secret, there's no secret from God. So that alone is reason enough to change. But all of us have our weaknesses, whether it's gossip or whatever it is. Everyone has faults and weaknesses. But when you catch yourself doing something you're not proud of, try to stop. Don't just keep doing the same stupid junk. Just try to stop. Okay, so I have this issue. I'm a judgmental person, or I'm a gossip, or whatever it might be. I lie, whatever, all the things, right? Okay, I know I did it. I'm unhappy that I did it. So first of all, I'm going to go to God and say, listen, God, it's the 5th time this week I lied. I'm still super sorry about it. I want to cut it out. I apologize. Please help me not to do it.
Yeah.
If you just have that intention, that's God's intention too. He wants to help you not do it. So you're invoking the power of God, the creator of all things, all powerful, into your life to say, help me change something he wants you to change. He's going to help. But it starts with your decision to say, okay, I don't like this about myself. I want to change. God, please help me. I'm sorry. Please help. He helps.
Yeah.
And that never changes. I mean, I've been a Christian for a long time. There's still things I go to God and say, okay, please help me change this. And you eventually get some area of your life cleaned up. And then you sort of see a new area of life. It's like, I guess I'm not perfectly right in this area. This will be my new area to work on.
Yeah.
That's just the walk of a Christian person over the entirety of your Christian life.
Well, and to speak even to that, I think if you really consider yourself a Christian, if you believe in Jesus and believe in Jesus' power in your life, you believe that God can help you stop those things. So
and start good new things. It's not all about stopping bad. But
definitely, I completely agree with you on that.
What little new habit can you start that's going to be really good for you? Well, maybe it's praying every day, or reading your Bible a little bit, or singing worship songs. What new habit can you start that starts to change your life? It's not all about stopping the negative.
No, it's absolutely about replacing it, because it actually helps you stop it, because you're doing something else in place of it. But I think there's something really important that, like, you can't say you're a Christian and say, I can't stop gossiping. Because then you're saying God's not powerful enough to do it. So if you are a Christian and you believe in Jesus and you struggle with gossip, you can say, Jesus, help me with this. And he is powerful enough if you're willing to actually let him help you. And I think that is a powerful thing. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about a bunch of different stuff that we've covered last week. But the last thing I want to get to about last week's discussion is we kind of gave this little bit of an overview of why we believe. And I thought that was really interesting. And it just kind of came out of nowhere. It just happened. I think it was trying to reference back to the beginning of the discussion about what belief is and that sort of thing. But we have different reasons for why we believe the faith in Jesus, have faith in Jesus. And I thought that was really incredible. For me, it's the fact that as I've researched and as I've looked at other religions and as I've just analyzed how things different groups work or philosophies work, I keep on coming back to Jesus because there's a direction that it goes. It's not like a contract where if you do this, it's okay, and then you'll agree to have the other person do that. It's not like a leveling of two justice things. It's a literal giving that Jesus gives to us that's free, and when we receive that, then we can continue to give that out to others. So it's a growing thing. It's not like a contractual thing. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is the one way that we'll ever be able to get over feeling like other people owe us.
Yeah.
And feeling like we deserve something. And I think that's crazy healthy. And that's where I think Jesus' message is so much more powerful. For you, it's a little different.
Yeah, it's funny because when you said that the other night, I considered that more of like your approach to God was more of an emotional or a spiritual pathway.
Yeah.
Which I respect. And we talked back and forth about that a little bit. Everyone has their own pathway, first of all. There's not a right pathway to God. Yeah. But for me, it was more purely intellectual, which I kind of respect the emotional, spiritual a bit more than my own. But for me, I truly believed in God. Like, there's just no way there's not God. Like, so many things prove God to me. There's God for sure. Mm-hmm. So then the next thing was, well, there's God. He must want something. Mm-hmm. He must want something of me. I don't know what it is. And that started an intellectual pursuit. And that part was similar to yours. Like, I explored other religions. I explored all sorts of stuff over a period of time. And for me, what came back to be the most logical even was this person of Jesus. Was he really God's son or not? And as I explored that, I came to the conclusion that my belief is that he is God's son. And then once I got to there, then I was like, well, okay, so I believe in God. I believe Jesus is God's son. Now what? Yeah. And then the choice was, well, then I'm going to follow Jesus' teachings. Yeah. To the best I could. And I've made a million mistakes along the way, but that's how it began for me. Yeah. That's awesome. I just love the fact that there's different directions and just the fact that to wrestle with it, you don't have to feel like you have to think the way I think or the way you think. You can come to know Jesus in however way. Maybe you have a spiritual experience and you just can't help but believe it. I think that's a really beautiful thing. I think God touches people in that way, or maybe it's super intellectual or I don't know. There's so many different directions you could come at from it, but I think it's a beautiful thing to see people, to see that difference and be okay with that. Yeah, and there's not a right or a wrong way to start exploring faith and making your own approach to God. It can be different than everyone else's, and that's between you and God. That's still fine. He's big enough that can handle any approach. Yeah. He wants you to knock, right? Like we talk about all the time, knock and the door will be open. That's what God says. God wants you to knock, and then his job is to open the door and greet you on in. But we all should be knocking in our own way. I loved last night so much, last Wednesday night, because I think in a lot of ways when you're a student, you're expected and
deemed okay for thinking about and asking these kinds of questions. I think as you get older, it's tempting to feel like you should have it all together and have it all figured out. And what I loved about last Wednesday night was that it was just an expectation that we're asking these questions. But I think it's fun that we can have this conversation now, because if wherever you're at in life, you can ask these questions. You can be thinking openly about these things. You can be probing yourself and thinking, hey, do I really believe, and do I have my reasons that are legitimate and right? And what should that make me do? What change should that bring about in my life?
Exactly. I sort of, I think, touched on that on the sermon last week, where I said, if you really believe you've been forgiven, right? Yeah. And I do. I know the stuff I've done and continue to do, and I truly believe that I'm forgiven by Jesus, by God. I believe I'm forgiven. I truly believe that. So that results in a different action for me. Knowing what God has forgiven me or what Jesus sacrificed for me, I have no choice but to forgive other people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't appreciate what I've been given. Jesus has forgiven me more than I'll ever forgive somebody else. So that does, and not that it's always easy. Sometimes it's a struggle. Some forgiveness is easy, some isn't. That's all still true. But the goal would be, I need to forgive others like Jesus forgives me, right? Because of that trust or that belief.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it changes your actions, even for something like forgiveness.
Yep.
Belief changes actions.
Yep.
Advil, forgiveness, for anything.
I love it. I think we should do a forgiveness podcast. I think we should do a topic of that. I think that would be a really fun one sometime. I think people struggle with that a lot.
Yeah, we could list all our sins on the wall.
We should.
Tell everyone what they all are, and then like start crossing them off, like God forgave that, God forgave that.
Honestly, that'd probably be amazing. So with that,
God already knows, right?
Totally.
So would it really be that bad to tell other people?
No.
What are they going to do about it?
It'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see.
We'll see I know I have a special guest next week, so that'll be fun. So I can't wait.
We'll start then. You and your special guest, you guys share all your sins.
That would be really
I'll be watching
fun.
and cheering you on.
Okay.
Like, what? That one? Whoa, Sam. Whoa, Nelly.
That'd be amazing, right? Well, that's one of the beautiful things. I was actually listening to something this morning that said, I was talking about this, like some people, pastors in some regard, can sometimes get to this place where people think that they're perfect. And my goodness, we're far from perfect.
Yeah. God knows the mistakes you've made, Sam.
Yes,
still
he does.
loves you. Still
Likewise.
Still loves you, still forgives you, still invites you in all the time.
Yeah.
If there's some person that doesn't agree with that you've made some mistake, that they don't want to be any part of you, they're also excluding themselves from a relationship with God at the same time.
Yeah, they are.
Because God wants you in there. He loves you. So they're saying, I don't want to go in.
Jesus tells you to pray, forgive me like I've forgiven others.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So good. Okay, so there's a prelude to our forgiveness talk someday.
Can't wait. With that, one last thing I want to talk about is we're talking about blessings lately because of the 30 Days to Live thing. That's the sermon
Blessings
series.
bingo. I'm getting so many emails this week.
I know.
I got a bingo. I got 2 bingos. I got blackout. It's awesome.
But we got to make sure we clarify when you get a bingo or a double bingo or a blackout. Make sure you email it in either to Mike
or any staff member.
Any staff member. And then put your name, because sometimes you have the email address that's like cf4352005 at hotmail.com, but it doesn't have your name. Make sure that you have your name in there, and then your like t-shirt size, if you get a t-shirt, or the staff person that you want to grab lunch with or a coffee with. Make sure you put that information in the email, please.
Someone apologized to me. Two things happened this week already. Someone apologized to me on Sunday.
Okay.
They're about to get a blackout, and they just on their way out, they're like, I just want to tell you, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I have so many questions. I really want to get to know Sam better, so don't feel bad when I request Sam.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, no worries. That's cool. I like Sam too. I'd like to have lunch with Sam. So I thought that was cool. And then I got one just today in an email, a person that has never been here in person in a service here. They only do service online, and they live in Appleton, right? Yeah. And they're super busy. It's really hard to get here for lunch. So they're like, please, thank you so much for the lunch offer, but please offer it to someone else that maybe doesn't get to ever have lunch with you or whatever.
That's amazing. That
should be like another box on their bingo thing. That should
no
be
kidding.
Bingo plus.
What can we do for them? That's so great. It was
just so, and their t-shirt too. They're like, I know I got a t-shirt, but that's okay. Why don't you give it to someone who, whatever. And that's amazing.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Man, well, this has been awesome. I feel like it's been just great to talk about last week a little bit, and I'm excited for those students. Maybe they're listening in. Thank you so much for listening in, guys, and hopefully this is another benefit to you guys. And then if you enjoy this podcast, make sure you share it, or just share with somebody you know that this would impact. Maybe it's something we talked about today, something you talked with other people about. Don't be afraid to share it with them. And with that, I'm looking forward to next week and getting back on with this in the future. So with that, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.